So please state your name, please.
My name is Naila Ansari.
Okay. And what do you do here at Buffalo State?
I'm an adjunct dance professor here at Buffalo State College.
Okay. So I'd like to start off by saying thank you for letting me interview you. I know this is like a lot of work and everything. All right, so let's get to the questions. So, who inspired you to dance?
My mom. My mom actually was a dancer growing up, and she went to Brockport, and she danced in Brockport. And so she always put me in dance when I was younger. And even at one point when I wanted to quit, she was always like, "No, you're so talented. Like, keep going, keep going." And my mom actually ended up going more into education and psychiatry. And so something that she's always kind of kept in her life, but wasn't able to fulfill it professionally. So I always felt like, you know what, I'm gonna kind of take the reins on this, and I'm gonna follow through. And she's always been like my inspiration because she's always worked hard, kept dance as a part of her life, even though she kind of changed her direction a little bit after her undergrad. But for sure, my mom.
Cool. Okay. What age did you realize you wanted to like incorporate dance as like your career?
Probably 13.
Really? 13?
Yeah.
That's so young.
For a while I like absolutely hated dance.
Wait, really?
Oh, I like hated it. So I would come in. It was like so structured. I was like such a free spirit. So I would go to these classes, and I typically just went on like Saturdays, and it was always like really regimented. And it wasn't until I was 13, and I kind of realized that I had like a little bit of talent, and I was always very like anal when it came to certain things, but I've always wanted to have like a certain like type of spontaneity in my life, and dance was kind of that mold once I got older and took it a little bit more seriously, that I realized like I can have the best of both worlds. Like I can like have this like this anal side kind of fulfilled for me, but I can also have like this free spirited side, and it really helped me like stay disciplined. But I didn't get that until I was about 13 and decided, okay, this is something that like I kind of want to do.
Cool. All right, so what's your favorite style of dance?
I know initially it was ballet.
What? No.
I loved ballet. Loved ballet after 13. And then puberty hit me pretty hard around 14, 15. And I realized I didn't have the body to be a professional ballerina. So my ballet teacher told me, maybe you should look into modern. Which initially I was like crushed, because in my mind I like wanted to be like the Sylvie Guillaume. And I was hurt when I initially got that feedback, but once I really delved into modern, I was really happy about it, because I was able to kind of be more visceral in my dancing and learn how to be vulnerable, but be able to keep a structure and technique. So modern wasn't as like rigid. It was more freeing, but it still had that technical side of it, but it was still, there was an emotional component to it that really fulfilled it through like the entire body. So it was a like hurt that ended up coming into like, a nice blessing in disguise.
Yeah. All right, so do you enjoy performing or teaching dance more?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I feel like in performing, you're still teaching in a different way. You may not be vocalizing things, but you're able to kind of be able to tell a story and teach an audience about what you're going through. So I kind of think of them in the same light. Performing is nice because you are on a stage, but I did have to learn to kind of filter that into the classroom and realize like the classroom is now my stage. So
oh, that was really pretty.
yeah. I would say my younger side would be like performing hands down, but now that I am teaching, I would say both are just as equal to me, because I find I can find the same sense of like being on that stage and getting that high in both worlds. Whereas before I could only see it like physically being on stage with makeup and costumes and stuff like that.
Okay, so before you were 13 years old, what did you want to be then? If you don't, because you don't want to be a dancer
I wanted
then.
to be a lawyer. Which, now I'm like, I don't know know what I was thinking, because I have a brother and sister-in-law that are lawyers, and like all they do is sit and just read and research all
Ooh.
day long. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know why I thought that. Maybe just because I watched too many like Law and Order shows and just want to be in the courtroom yelling
Yes,
and debating
no,
with
really.
somebody. But yeah, initially I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay, so how do you think like dance or art could be effective therapy or an outlet for kids who had like a rough childhood?
So dance is super important. I worked with Propel Charter Schools for over 5 years, and they were typically in urban environments with children that had bad home lives. And a lot of kids were had IEPs. A lot of kids had really dysfunctional homes where they had parents in and out of their life, or they were in middle school taking care of their younger siblings, or their life was just very chaotic. I realized with teaching dance that it was something for them to express themselves without having to speak their pain, and so that was something that was really beneficial for me to watch. And it was also helpful for them in a therapeutic way, because sometimes you don't want to talk about the things that are happening in your home, but you want to be able to still feel it. And so dance in urban environments, dance for children that have disabilities, dance for children that have emotional support issues is really beneficial and therapeutic for them, because they don't necessarily always have to like verbalize what's going on with them, and then they still get this sense of like being free. And another component of that is with dance, just with other performing arts, they don't have to constantly focus so much on like the right and wrong. Like with math and science, it's right or it's wrong.
Right.
With dance, with music, it's more of a feeling. Like, how does this feel to you? You get to be kind of objective on your own. And I found that students that didn't do as well academically, really did well in the performing arts classes and in dance, because they were able to kind of like be themselves and kind of create their own curriculum, so to speak. So.
Okay, that was actually a really good answer.
Okay.
So what does dance mean to you?
That's a hard one.
I know.
Dance
Sorry.
means a lot of things to me, but more recently in my life, I feel like dance means peace. I feel like being a mom and a wife and teaching and running around, I don't really have time for myself. So being able to go to a studio is a lot more of an internal and peaceful feeling than before. Before I had a family, and before I taught and like worked and was like in this like big girl world, dance was always more like performing for an audience. Like, oh, I can't wait to work with this choreographer and do these steps. Now for me, dance is just a piece of mind for me.
Cool. Okay, so describe a typical dance class.
Oh, okay. Well, they're all a little different depending on the technique, but typically you would have a warm-up, then you'd have some type of progression across the floor, and then you typically would have some type of combination or movement pattern that comes from it. Some people do improvisation, where you're just kind of moving, but that's like the typical structure of a dance class.
Okay, and how important is warming up before dance?
Really important, because a lot of times people just go in, and because dance naturally feels good, they're just like, okay, I can just go and just hit the step and feel good about myself. But unfortunately, that's how you get injured, because with dance, it's also extremely athletic, and a lot of people kind of forget that, because it looks, and it's a visual, it visually is like something that's really impressive and looks easy, and so they don't warm up, and then they do this jump, and then they get hurt and don't know why, because in their mind it's like, oh, but that looks so easy, that looks so nice.
Right, like I could do that in my sleep.
I can do that,
yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So warming up is very important, and it's also important mentally, because it kind of prepares you to really work hard for the rest of the class. Like kind of mentally focuses you to like kind of take whatever's going on in your life and like make you present.
So what is the best experience that you've had as a dancer, or as anything, just in your life?
Okay, the best experience I've had to be dancing in a company with some of my closest friends. So I had the privilege of dancing in a company where like 5 of us all went to college together, and then like 2 of us like kind of grew up together, and it only lasts for 4 years, but that's a time I will never take back, and it's just like to be able to be so vulnerable with people that and have that type of trust on stage and be able to look at someone and just like know that that's like your friend, and know that you have a connection is really hard, and it only literally comes once in a lifetime. Some people don't ever get to experience that as a dancer, but I can like honestly say like I was able to dance with like my best friends.
Aw,
So,
that's
yeah.
so nice. Oh my gosh. Okay, and my last question is, where do you see yourself like 10 years from now?
Ooh, okay, so 10 years from now, I see myself hopefully with a doctorate in dance history, and specifically in Black dance movement. And I see myself creating an arts conservatory for children in urban environments to be able to help them become professional dancers. A lot of times, children that can't afford dance don't really necessarily have the opportunities after high school, and they get so far behind, like the 8 ball, so to speak, that it's hard for them to recover, especially girls. With guys, it's a little easier. They can typically start later and still do really well. Girls, it's a little harder. So I want to be able to create an environment for students to really get professional quality training that may not be able to necessarily always afford it, but still be able to get the same opportunities as those kids that pay, a ton of money in suburban studios. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very
No
much.
problem. Those are good questions.